Welcome back to Truth Be Told. My name is Max, and Dwight is here with me, and we're going to carry on a little bit of our last conversation in a little bit of a different fashion, but talking about don't smoke, chew.
Don't drink, smoke, or chew.
See, I can't even get it right, but that's fine. But talking about basically, sometimes it feels like by associating with certain people, we're going to defile ourselves. And I know that's definitely how I grew up. It's like, oh, no, you can't do those things. You can't hang out with these people, because if you do, now you're the same. But it's not the same. To me, it's the difference between being of the world and being in the world. And I think that's where, so if Jesus came to the people in need, met them in the middle of their mess, and if we're not willing to do that, we're not willing to follow him in that. Yeah. And so I think, I'm just going to add this in because it's kind of a practical sense, but it's going to lead into this. And a friend of mine, very musically talented, his name is Torrance, and he...
That would be Ocean T?
Ocean T. Yes, exactly. So he... amazing, ultra talented, but he's like, I feel called and want to bring Jesus into culture. So we're the worldly place, and I think he's hitting the nail on the head, because it's taking your talents and abilities, what God's gifted you with, and you're taking that and sprinkling that in, but you're not necessarily preaching. You're going to bring light to dark places. But you're not necessarily being that.
Yeah. So that don't drink, smoke, or chew, that or associate with those who do. That monitor that we would say. But while you were speaking, I thought of one word, and with regards to the life of Jesus, and that one word was leprosy.
Yeah.
And you're going, how in the world does that fit into this conversation? And so how did society and the culture treat people that had leprosy?
Had nothing to do with them.
Why?
Because they were afraid of getting exactly the same disease. They were unclean, and they separated them from the rest of everybody because of that.
And so how did Jesus treat those with leprosy?
He reached out and touched them.
Yeah, almost every time that you're reading where there's somebody with leprosy, and they cry out in mercy, Son of David, have mercy, mercy. When they call out to him in mercy, almost every time that he heals them, he reaches out and he lays hands on them. He touches them, right?
Yeah.
What would have been the response of these 12 Jewish young men that were following her the first time that he touches them?
Oh, they would have been losing their minds.
When you say that, I think of one of my daughters will say when her daughter throws some sort of a tantrum, she says she's losing her mind. And I think you're right. You can imagine, if you will, that the lepers, those that had leprosy, and they come to Jesus, they're asking for mercy, right? And Jesus reaches out. Yeah. You can almost picture them, and they're thinking that Jesus is going to be affected by them instead of Jesus
affecting them.
How often in our culture
yes,
do we think the same way?
Yeah.
We think, if I associate with them, with this person, how will that affect me, or how will it be perceived?
Yeah. I'm thinking of something. It's like this. I think it's our speaking to believers, to followers of Jesus, and this is what comes to mind for me. It's like, if I don't believe the power that Jesus has, the Holy Spirit, if I don't believe that fully, then I will be afraid, because I feel that the evil is actually going to be more powerful in return than what the power that Jesus has against that.
And so you think of Jesus, he reaches out. What, and you and I, as we go through life, how often we try to separate ourselves from that. And Max, you said something. You said we're to be in the world, not of the world. And can you relate what that might look like? That the difference between, because we're all in the world, but we're not necessarily of the world. And what difference does that make? And what difference does it make for the somebody that's on the outside looking in?
Well, I think being willing to...
Well, first of all, let's say we can't avoid being in the world until we're taken out of this. Okay,
so totally, yeah. And I think
so
the
now,
simplest form for me. Is
yeah. So now, what's the of the world then, right?
Yeah, being sharing and allowing Jesus to flow through you and share that love, regardless of where you are. I would say more so than Sunday. Sunday is not built for where I show Jesus' love. That's where we're receiving from him and we're being filled up. But in the workplace, in the business, in the restaurants, in your day-to-day interactions. I really think it's just day-to-day interactions, because life is busy. Yeah. And those are ongoing every single day things. And we're always looking for the big thing, the big show, and the big event to make the difference. But I'm going to relate it to this in business terms. And it's like, sometimes the sales guys, and we're always looking for landing the cruise ship deal, where it's like a massive contract, massive thing. That's going to make our business grow. Boom, it's going to change everything. The reality is that's never going to happen. It might come along someday, but the things that make the difference are the small things, day in, day out.
They're the things that connect you with the people that connect with the people.
Correctly. The salt, if you will, throughout the day-to-day.
The salt in the coffee.
The salt in the coffee.
By the way, you didn't bring me one either.
No, I know. There's a bit of bitterness here, so I'm gonna have to get some. Yeah. So exactly, because, and if we can sprinkle that throughout the day, that's taking the bitterness out of the coffee, if you will, day by day. It's the small things that make the difference. That is where, if that starts to change around you.
I'm going to say something. I'm going to interrupt you for a second, and forgive me for that. But I just think, when you're talking in that, we often think, how do I influence? How do I introduce this person to Jesus? And there's almost been a thing in our culture where I got to get them to church.
Yep.
So I'm going to say Mike. Okay? You and your dad have had a profound influence on Mike's journey. And how did that happen? And the other part I want you to explore a little bit, think about a little bit, is should someone trust you enough that you invite them to join you at church? How do you do that? Because church is a scary place, even if we don't want to admit that.
Yeah, definitely. The reality of that, it doesn't feel like I did anything. I think that's the easy, simple answer, but it's also, I don't know what else to give.
So first of all, then it's natural.
Yes.
It's natural in it's natural in meeting them where they are.
Yeah, okay. Exactly. So we really just interacted. And so to me, so I'm going to add something to that came to mind as well, is if we're, what do you call it? If we're sprinkling the salt, if you will, without being preachy, without being that judgmental. I'm going to say, I'm going to use these words as churchy person to try to convince them or sell them on something. But we're just being somebody in their life, meeting them where they're at, regardless of the situation. I think God will use that, and they'll be like, okay, something is different. That is really all that happened. Is God did the work, and I've had that a few times where people ask me the question, you go to church, right? I have not said a word about it. I've never said anything to do with Christian things. I've never said anything to do with God. I've never said anything.
You never said anything about Jesus.
Nothing. But I've been called out in that several times. And so to me, you don't have to be.
So we're talking sphere of influence then.
Yes.
And the circles that God brings you in, and the places that God places you, and people alongside of you.
Correct.
Right?
And I think if we're willing to allow him to flow through us, and I'm not saying I do this perfectly. I'm saying it's a progression.
It's a journey.
Exactly. But if we allow him in our life to do that work, and we join him in that, he's going to draw them, and they will notice the difference. And so, they will ask the question because they'll be able to taste the salt, if you will, taking the bitterness away, or they'll notice that that's not in your life.
Or they'll notice the light. The other thing Jesus says.
That's the other thing. Yeah. And they'll be like, why do I feel like there's something different when I'm around you versus every single other person I'm around, or whatever that.
And there's an attractiveness to that when it's not pushy, isn't there?
Yes. Well, that's, I think, when that is when it becomes natural. You've said this before, when the conditions are right, growth happens naturally. Yeah. And I think only then they will be drawn naturally.
And so what Torrance is saying, going back to Torrance, again, with that using the gifts, the talents, the abilities, so as a platform so that people can see Jesus.
Correct. Yep. And exactly. And music is a wonderful platform. For me, it's business because there's connections from suppliers to customers to day-to-day to whatever. And it might not be public, but it doesn't matter if it's public.
Yeah.
If you're in the workplace, that's your platform.
And people start noticing this inner light that's inside of you of Jesus because the Spirit of Christ is in there. And that light begins to shine out, and people want to know what makes you different.
Yes, that's the question. And when that question is posed in their mind, God's drawing.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, and so what makes you different? And then they'll often notice a peace in your life. They'll notice the light that's in your life, and they'll notice the likeness of Jesus. But they may not be able to put their finger on that. They just go, it's different.
Yeah.
The way that you walk, the way that you talk, the way that you treat people, and I had a little girl in this community a number of years ago. I met her a couple of times, and once I dug her boot out of the snowbank and dumped it out. And she goes, "You're the kindest man I know." And 2 interactions with her, and that's, but God meeting people where they are, and so these spheres of influence that we have in this we have a circle of friends, but God is constantly, and you look at the life of Jesus, that sphere of influence, that circle of friends was constantly growing, right? Yeah. He could have said, you know what, I'm satisfied So, who's the disciple that Jesus loved?
John.
John is unashamed of telling us that, right? So John is on the inmost circle of Jesus, and so we have those in our lives that are on that inmost circle here. Who's next?
I would say Peter.
Peter, James, and John.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so you've got one, you have three in this circle, and then you've got the circle of 12.
Yeah.
Right? And then you've got a circle of 70. And so that circle, and in our lives, you're always going to have this one, you're always going to have this three.
And I think each one of them would have had that similar, there's always going to be that one person that's the closest, and then the next and the next. And it's not picking favorites, it's just the reality of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you think of, so if I were to say, James, what comes natural to you?
Half brother of Jesus.
Okay.
No, that's the other one. Sorry.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
So if I were to say James, what naturally would come to me would be John.
Yeah,
right?
Okay.
If I were to say Peter, I would say Andrew. Right? And that's the natural ones. But then you see God developing that. And it would be interesting to know exactly who Jesus sent out 2 by 2. And as he's sending them and he's stretching them, and he does that within our lives. And so this whole thing about reaching outside of our natural circles and that sphere of influence and looking at Jesus and finding ways. So I want to take you back. We're just about ready to wrap up here on this session. But so Max, you become my friend. I don't know Jesus, and other than you, I don't know anybody that knows Jesus. And I don't care if I know Jesus, really. Yeah. But you invite me to come to church. What am I thinking, and what should you do?
You're probably thinking, I don't know about this. But if you do decide to come...
Is church a scary place for me?
Definitely.
Why?
I would say you're probably thinking church is full of perfect people. I can't measure up. I'm whatever. But that's the way I feel anyway. But it's a new place. There's different people. There's a lot of new and uncomfortable situations. I don't know what I'm about to expect, especially if you've never been. I think it would be important for me to meet, if you do decide to come, meet you at the door. Okay. Before even, so that you don't have to walk through that uncomfortableness alone. And then sit with you and just literally.
Max, I got questions about what they're saying here in church. There's a lot of weird stuff they say. There's things like redemption. I got questions about when they're talking about that. How in the world do I find out what that means? What those words actually mean. Would you answer them for me?
I will answer them. If I don't have the question, I'll get the answer. So
you're saying if you bring me, and you sit with me, and there might be an opportunity for us to have coffee afterwards, and you go, what did you think? Or was there anything strange about that? Yeah. Where you would answer that.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Well, we want to thank you for joining us on
Truth Be Told. And we will see you guys in the next episode. Thank you.